Tonight, millions of people are going to sit down, open a stream, and watch 22 strangers chase a ball around a patch of grass. You already know this. You've done it before. But tonight is different. Tonight, one of those strangers is wearing the number 10 shirt, and an entire country's heartbeat is tied to his. This is Argentina versus Austria. And on paper, it looks simple. 2 teams, 1 winner. But the real story is far stranger than a scoreline. It's a story about pressure, about how a single 90-minute window can rewrite a nation's summer, and about why the team that looks strongest on paper is sometimes the one with the most to lose. Let's start with the shirt. Argentina's number 10 has been worn by some of the most scrutinised athletes alive. Lionel Messi wore it for nearly 2 decades, carrying expectations that would crush most human nervous systems. Why does a piece of fabric do this to a person? Psychologists call it identity fusion. Your brain doesn't just see a player, it sees a symbol, and symbols don't get to have bad days. Here's where it gets strange. Argentina opened this tournament with a thumping 3-0 win over Algeria, convincing, clean, the kind of result that should calm nerves. But sports psychologists have found something almost backwards about easy wins. They don't reduce pressure, they raise it. Researcher Roy Baumeister, who spent decades studying performance under scrutiny, called this the pressure of expectation. Once you've shown what you're capable of, anything less becomes a story about decline, not a normal day at the office. So Argentina walks into tonight not relieved, but cornered by their own brilliance. Austria, meanwhile, is sitting in a very different psychological space. They also won their opener. They also sit on 3 points. But almost nobody outside their own borders expected that. And here's the twist your brain doesn't usually clock. Underdogs often play looser. Not because they're less skilled, but because they have permission to fail. Nobody is writing headlines about Austrian collapse. That absence of dread is its own kind of fuel. You've felt a smaller version of this yourself. Think about a task where everyone expects you to succeed versus one where nobody's watching at all. Which one made your hands shake more? Probably the first one. That's not weakness, that's wiring. Now stack the table on top of all this. Group J currently has 2 teams tied at the top, Argentina and Austria, both unbeaten, both on 3 points. Algeria and Jordan sit at 0. Mathematically, tonight's winner takes a massive step toward topping the group. The loser gets dragged into a nervy final group game with everything still in doubt. This is why commentators keep calling it one of the biggest games of the day. It's not hype, it's arithmetic wrapped in nerves. There's a deeper pattern hiding underneath all of this, and it's the same one that shows up in courtrooms, exam halls, and job interviews. Psychologist Sian Beilock has studied what's known as choking under pressure, and her research found something counterintuitive. The more conscious effort you pour into a skill you've already mastered, the worse you tend to perform. Overthinking disrupts automaticity. A striker who has scored 1,000 goals in training can miss an open net in a final, not because his foot forgot how to kick a ball, but because his brain suddenly tried to supervise something it used to do on autopilot. This is why favourites sometimes freeze and underdogs sometimes soar. It isn't really about talent, it's about who's thinking too hard and who's allowed to just play. So which version of Argentina shows up tonight? The relaxed, free-flowing side that dismantled Algeria? Or the tightened, hyper-aware version, suddenly conscious of every touch, every pass, every camera in the stadium? You won't know until kickoff. Neither will they. Here's the part that brings it back to you. You don't have a stadium of 70,000 people watching your next decision. But you've stood at your own version of this line. A presentation, an interview, a moment where the stakes felt enormous and your own competence suddenly felt like a stranger. That tightening in your chest, that sudden awareness of your own heartbeat, that's the same nervous system mechanism that's about to walk out onto a pitch in front of millions. The athletes are just doing it with better lighting. Group J's table will look completely different by tomorrow morning. Someone will wake up with breathing room. Someone else will wake up needing a miracle in their final match. And the deciding factor won't just be skill. It'll be which set of players can quiet the noise in their own head long enough to let their training take over. Tonight, millions of people are going to sit down and watch 22 strangers chase a ball around a patch of grass. But if you're paying attention, you're not really.